I promised you guys I was going to create a video on psychology and being patient on the market. I noticed that you guys have been asking me to do this, but I'm just procrastinating it. I don't know why. That's not the content of this video. This video right now, we're about to break down over 20 pairs for next week. Just follow me, right? See what my thought process is on this market and see what I see in order to select the best pairs for next week, right? Let's get started, right? So as you guys know, this trade was the trade I took last week. I told you guys I held this trade over the weekend, and I told you guys I was going to continue holding this trade to final take profit target, which was this one right here, right? So 1:2 is supposed to be around here, but if you look at this screenshot right here, you can notice that I exited. As you can see, I exited around 164,29269, which is pretty much more than a 1:2 risk reward ratio. When I posted that trade, I told you guys it was a winning trade, right? But I actually held for slightly a little bit longer, and I'll tell you the reason I actually did this, right? So before we just continue with the setup for next week, let me show you what I learned last week, right? So come over to your um come over to your Google search and just search relative currency strength right here. Right, just come over to your Google, search relative currency strength. So I use this one, currencystrengthmeter.org, right? So if you click on that, I'll just give it time to load up. You can see that this shows the strength of a currency, right? It just shows the strength of a currency. So most of the time when I was actually holding this Euro AUD, you really need to understand the difference between quote and base currencies, right? You need to understand the difference. But if you want me to explain it, I'll explain it for you guys. But this right here, most of the time AUD had a very full bar right here, which shows that AUD had a lot of strength. And because AUD in my trade was actually the quote pair, right? It shows that I needed AUD to be strong for this trade to continue selling, and I needed Euro to be weak for this trade to continue selling, right? So that was pretty much one of the reasons I actually held this trade for a little bit more, right? Because AUD was very strong for almost 3 days back to back. It was pretty much at the highest level. So once I started seeing that AUD started reducing strength, it started losing strength, and even Euro at that time, Euro was around here, right? It started gaining strength. So that was the perfect signal for me to actually exit. And that as I exited the trade, pretty much price started reversing, and then the next day, which was on Friday, price started gaining strength. AUD started gaining strength again, and Euro started losing strength again. So that's why, hence this dump right here, right? I was actually pretty much targeting this right here, 1:3 risk reward ratio down here, right? Because that level was actually the daily structure point. So I'll show you guys. It's right here. So it was just this high of these structural points right here. So anyway, I'm done with that trade, right? And I want to also let you guys know that the beginning of this April, right, there was one trade we actually lost. We lost a trade. Let me show you guys before we continue. Yes, this right here. So it was GBP card. So GBP card minus 2%, Euro AUD plus 4%, but technically more than plus 4% because this is 1:2.8, right? So I'm pretty much up for this month already, right? Pretty much up for this month already. So we are around 3% for this month. Anyway, so let's continue with the market that we're going to be trading this new week, right? Remember that the market is a redistribution place from the impatient traders to the patient traders. So if you try your best to just be a patient trader, the market is actually likely to reward you very strongly, right? Anyway, so let us see the markets that we have for next week. So we are starting from GBP AUD. So GBP AUD, I was very happy that let me take us back a little bit, right? Let me take us back. I just deleted this. So let me show you guys what was there before. So if you notice last week on GBP AUD, I was actually calling buys on this market, right? So GBP AUD, I was calling buys on this market, and for us to actually buy, we needed a break right here, a retracement, and an engulfing for us to buy. So right here we're having a break, but it was not a clean break because I told you guys it was supposed to be on the 4-hour time frame because we needed the 4-hour to actually shift bearish. To actually shift bullish for us to be interested in this market. So this right here, we are having one kind of break, but it was on a 1-hour time frame, and it still closed under this area right here. So we could not actually take that trade. So we are just looking for a break retest to buy. Now I was actually happy that this market did not give us the opportunity, because if this market actually give us the opportunity, that would tell me that AUD will be losing strength, and I don't need it to be losing strength for my trade, right? Because I was already on this pair. I told you guys I was already on this pair. So because AUD was still gaining strength, that's why this right here was selling, and that was pretty much good for my trade. That's why I was able to take profit, right? So now I'll delete everything so that we'll see what we really have for this new week, right? So now let's go over to the daily time frame. All right, so daily time frame right now is pretty much bullish, because this right here is the higher high and this right here is the higher low, right? Weekly time frame is bearish, and then 4-hour time frame is also bearish. Now, with all I have said, you can notice that we don't have two time frame in sync, because daily is still bullish, right? So we have to go over to the next pair. Next pair, we delete everything. As you can see, we'll delete everything, and then we'll look at what this market is doing. So let's see. Weekly time frame is bearish, lower low right here, lower high. Daily time frame is bullish, right? The perfect point to be selling was after these dojis, which is the trade we actually caught. But right now, price is clearly bullish, and there's no clear area of interest to use, as you can see right here. So this is like 2 years price action. I don't think I like it, to be honest. I don't really like it, because you'll be expecting buy from here, but I don't think it's actually going to be happening, right? So I'll not really be paying attention to Euro AUD this new week. So let's go over to the next pair. So gold, last week I was actually calling gold, but I didn't actually take it, right? I was just showing you guys that the trade was actually playing out, right? So we had a very strong momentum on Friday, which is even crazy on Friday. So for us to buy gold again, which I don't know if I'm going to be interested, is for a retracement again. So let me remove this risk reward ratio too first. For gold, this is what will make sense the most. So we need price to slow down, getting to around this level, pretty much have a doji if possible, right, for us to pretty much continue buying from here. Price is above area of interest, which is a very good thing, and the market structure is bullish, as you can see, breaking new highs, having higher highs and higher lows. EMA is still under, holding price as support. So it makes sense that this market should continue buying, right? Makes sense that this market should continue buying. I'm actually add gold for this new week, depending on if we have good other good markets this week or not, right? So for now, there's no markets that we are looking to see for this new week. So next pair, Euro USD. Let us see. So Euro USD, I was actually waiting for price to pretty much sell to this area for us to buy this new week. Again, I told you guys last week that we are not going to be paying attention to it, mostly because I don't think it was going to happen last week, right? And this week, it also do not look like it's going to happen this week again. So we will not be trading Euro USD, though we no need. This might be a perfect counter trend trade setup, right? But to be honest, I don't really like counter trend trade setups that much, except it looks extra clean, like that one we saw on Euro AUD, right? Once price is moving very strongly to the upside and start slowing down a little bit too much, right, and start shifting structure, especially on the 4-hour time frame, then those counter trend trade setups are pretty much good, right? But for Euro USD, it's not looking too good. It shifted structure bullish, shifted structure bearish, but EMA is still above. EMA is still below, holding price as support. So I'm not really interested in that kind of counter trend trade setup, right? So next pair, NZD JPY. All right, so NZD JPY. Let's look at how it looks on the daily time frame. All right, I can see daily time frame. We have some form of resistance level right here, right? Again, this might be like a counter trend trade setup, but let us see if it's a good one. So we have a very strong resistance right here that has, I'll call it exactly 3 taps, right? I'll call this one 1, 2, and 3. Right? I'll call this one 1 tap, 2, and this will be the 3rd tap. So, but is this market bullish? Yes, this market is still bullish. So we still do. Let's see how the weekly looks. Weekly is also bullish. This is the higher high, and this right here is the higher low. 4-hour time frame is actually bearish, right? So I don't think I'll be interested. Will I be interested? We already have 2 time frame, weekly and daily, bearish. Sorry, bullish, right? but only the 4 hour is bearish. So we don't even have two. We have just 4 hour bearish, right? But this might actually be a solid counter trend trade setup for a retracement right here to sell, but I don't think I'll be interested in counter trend trade setups, right? I'm trying to be positive for this month. I'm not really trying to be risking way too much, right? GBP JPY seems like it's pretty much the same price action. Let us see. Daily time frame, GBP JPY. All right, that was the higher high. There's pretty much no solid area of interest for us to use here. So I'll not be interested in GBP JPY. Seems like we're not having good markets this week. NZD USD. Let's delete everything. I need a cleaner chart. NZD USD. All right, so let us see what we have here. Okay, first of all, the market structure is what? The market structure is bullish on the daily time frame. On the weekly time frame, the market is should we call it bullish or bearish? Because this right here, I might still count this as a valid structure point. This blue candle right here. Well, let's see how the 4 hour looks. Let's assume the weekly is bullish. 4 hour is now technically bearish. I think it's similar price action to one of these pairs that I just looked at. I think it's EURUSD. I don't think I'll be interested in this market. But what is my thought process on this market? What could possibly happen? I believe this market could potentially sell depending on how market structure forms. But I don't think I'll be interested, to be honest. Too much counter trend trade setup this week. Alright, so GPP card, let us see what we have. Daily time frame. Okay. Alright, so now I'm finding a very good pair that I like now. So GPP card, daily time frame is bullish, in my opinion, right? So I like these rejections from this area. First of all, I like all these rejections. So this right here is like a break retracement back into all this rejection, which is also the previous structure point of the daily time frame, right? EME, by the way, is now switching bullish, as you can see right here. So now I'll drag this area of interest to the left to see if we can accommodate a little bit more rejections and look for a better area for us to buy from, right? Buy. So if I look at this area of interest right here, you can see that we had a rejection right here. One, we had a rejection, two, right? Two rejections. We had consolidations around here. I'll not be calling this a rejection, right? It's just a consolidation around here. So we had, a fourth one or a third one, right? So I think this area of interest is actually pretty solid. That is that on the daily time frame, right? Now, weekly time frame. Weekly time frame is actually bearish, right? Weekly time frame is actually bearish. This right here is the lower low, lower high. So we still need at least the 4 hour to be bullish for us to actually buy this market, right? Weekly area of interest will be cleaner if we had this area of interest right here. So I'll just draw it. I'll look for the best one to use, right? 4 hour time frame. Let us see what the market structure is doing. So market structure on the 4 hour time frame it's actually bearish, right? So now we still do not have that 2 time frame in sync, right? We don't have that 2 time frame in sync, but we believe that this market should buy. So what my game plan is that we need 4 hours to actually shift bullish, but I need it to be bearish a little bit, getting back into area of interest so that our stop loss will not be way too far, right? Then we will now look for the shift of this market and a retracement to potentially buy. That will determine if the daily, so that will mean that the daily will now have to have a slowdown, right? So we might actually not be getting this trade as early as Monday. We might actually get it like probably Wednesday, because we need like Monday and Tuesday to have a lot of price action. Maybe like 2 dojis on the daily, but on the 4 hour it will be having a shift, and on the 1 hour it will also be having a shift. So I'll just keep it, but I don't think it will happen very early next week, right? So GPP card, I like this pair for this week. All right, NZD USD. Have we covered NZD-USD? NZD-USD, okay. So let us see. Market structure is bullish, right? Daily time frame is bullish. Okay. Let us see how the weekly looks. Weekly time frame is what? Well, bullish. I'll count this as a structural point, right? And weekly time frame has clear rejections, and that is in line with the daily time frame, right? So let us just check it again. Daily time frame is what? Bullish, and the area of interest on the daily time frame also have multiple rejections, as you can see right here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhat of a 5, 6, 7 rejections. Okay, so it's a very valid area of interest, right? Now let's see how the 4 hour looks. All right, so 4 hour technically is still bearish. It's actually bearish right now. So what I'll be looking for is for price to now shift bullish again, have a retracement to buy. So I'll actually keep this one for this week. It has similar price action to some of the pairs I looked at, but this right here might actually be way more cleaner than those ones I just looked at, right? So I need price to actually shift bullish and a retracement for me to buy. So until that happens, before I start paying attention to the market. So NZD-USD, let's keep it very close for next week. AUD card next pair. Let us see what we have there. Daily time frame. All right, we can already tell that we are not going to be trading this market. And if you know why, put it in the comment section, right? If you know why, put it in the comment section. NZD card, let's see what we have there. All right, NZD card. This market structure is what? Bearish, technically. I'll be calling this a market structure, right? So that means that I'm calling this the higher high. And instead of calling this the higher low, I'll actually be calling this the higher low, which means price actually broke below that low, making this market structure bearish, right? That's what I'm seeing. You can argue with this one if you want, actually, because it's a tight one. It depends, right? So market is bearish on the daily. Weekly time frame is, well, also very tight. I don't really like tight market. I don't really like tight market. If it's bearish, it should be clearly bearish. If it's bullish, it should be clearly bullish, right? But I believe this market should. This kind of looks like a left head, right shoulder, and usually that is a reversal pattern. That is a reversal pattern. Could have a retracement here to continue selling, at least to potentially this level right here. But do I think I will trade this next week? Do I think I'll trade this next week? Okay, let me at least look for a daily area of interest. Let's start with that first. So let me look at this area right here. As you can see, 3 rejections from this area first of all. Few multiple rejections from this area, right? Okay, so now it's not looking that bad anymore. As you can see right here, we had clear rejections from this area. 3 times price rejected off of this area. 4 times right here. Once we were when we were below the area, we started rejecting to the downside, as you can see right here again, right? And now we are actually under that area. I actually believe that this area could hold price as resistance, right? So I am actually calling this the what? Higher high, higher low, which means that market structure has shifted on the daily time frame. Okay, not bad actually. Now let's see how the 4 hour looks. Now the 4 hour, as you can tell, has a left head, right shoulder. I actually like this reversal candlestick pattern, right? Left head, right shoulder. But I'll be careful just a little bit, right? Let me just see how the price action is looking. Okay, so let us look at how the 1 hour is looking, just to see how we are going to be entering this market. Okay, all right, so here's my thought process now. Here's my thought process. You see this minor level right here that seems like it's just a minor level, right? Price have actually rejected off of that area multiple times on the 1 hour time frame, right? I'm not going to be ignoring that area, right? I need price to be clearly under that area. The reason is because if I enter before that area, let's say I took a sell trade here. Let me come a little bit closer. Let's say I took a sell trade here and we started going into profit. Who told you that price cannot just reverse off of that area? Because clearly it has done that before. If you sell from here, price will get to that minor area that you think is just a minor level, and price will just reject off of that place and just tear your SL, right? So I am not going to be trading before that area. I'll be trading under that area. So if price can now finally break that area, then I'll not be interested for the sales. So price is pretty much around that area. What I will be looking for is a cleaner market structure. Maybe I need clean market structure before that break, hopefully. Then we have the clear break, the retracement, and then we can now potentially sell to that 4 hour structure point, I think, or daily structure point, somewhere around this level, anywhere from this level to this level. So it just kind of depends. So, but I like this pair for next week actually. NZD card. GBP NZD next pair. All right. So GBP NZD, let us see what we have. Okay, so daily time frame is bearish. Daily time frame is actually bearish because this right here is actually the lower low right here, and the lower high for that is this one right here. Our area of interest is supposed to be found within this high and this low, right? I can see an area right here. So let me draw it first just to have a cleaner perspective. Okay, so at least we had about 2 rejections right here, a third rejection which is already valid. I'll extend it to the left, and then I'll also extend it right here to see. Okay, again, I don't really like using very far price actions, so I'll actually just stop here, which is November 2025. Now I think that is actually pretty valid, right? Now let me look at how the weekly looks. Weekly time frame. Okay, so weekly time frame is, let's see. All right, so here's my thoughts on the weekly time frame, right? So weekly time frame, we were pretty much pushing to the upside just like this, and then we started selling for about weeks on weeks. I don't know, I cannot start counting that, right? And then we started having a deeper retracement just like this, and this is where we are right now. If I bring this part downwards, right, this will show me that this market structure is actually bearish, right? And this right here is a very deep retracement back into the last structural point, which is right here, right? And then it has clearly rejected from that level. Now this tells me that we might have a pretty much deeper pullback, like a very deep pullback, assuming that we are going to continue buying, right? Or if we are going to continue selling, then we'll now break under this low and have a retracement of that low to continue selling. So I believe that this market on the weekly is telling us to sell, right? Anyway, let us see how the 4 hour looks right now. 4 hour time frame. Let me delete all these things. All right. Okay. All right. This is actually a very good trade for selling, right? So here's my thought process on the 4 hour time frame now. 4 hour time frame, as you can clearly see, right here we were bullish. Clearly, in fact, we even avoided the EMA because we had volume, right? As you can look at the EMA, just look at the EMA, you can clearly see it was bullish, and right here it pretty much just shifted bearish. Right now, this market structure is actually bearish. No, not actually bearish, it's actually bullish, but the EMA is showing us bearish signs. Even the market is actually showing us bearish signs. And how do we know that? Is because now we are now breaking lows. As you can see right here, we broke under this low. Under this low again, we broke under that low, and we keep on breaking lows right here. But the buyers in this market are still pretty much strong. We cannot ignore that the same volume that the sellers made, the buyers are making the exact same volume. which is not really a good thing, right? Because if the buyers are making the same volumes and we are trying to sell, then that means that this kind of week out might actually happen in this kind of market. You understand what I mean? So what would be my game plan? My game plan on this market is that I want the forward to clearly shift bearish. And for the forward to clearly shift bearish, you need to break under this low right here, right? You need to break under this low. And then if you break under that low, I'll look for a retracement of that low to sell. So let's see how it will look on the 1 hour time frame. All right, so 1 hour time frame again brings me to that minor 1 hour resist support level. You can see price rejected off of that level. You thought it was going to break right here. He actually rejected off of that level. Same thing here again, and this was even on Friday, right? The market structure on the 1 hour time frame is actually still bearish right now, but I'll not be paying attention to this market on the I'll only be paying attention to this market on the 4 hour time frame, right? So I need the 4 hour to actually start becoming bearish, right, before the break. Then I'll start paying attention to this market for the sales. So I believe that this market could sell, right? Let's see where the final take profit of this market could be. All right, so I think we should be targeting this level right here, right? Assuming that it's going to give us a 1:2 risk reward ratio, right? So oh, and by the way, I just realized that the daily is also going to, the EMA will shift bearish when I'll be interested in that market, right? Because right now it's still at a decision phase, right? Now if we can have that break and retracement, then the EMA on the daily will actually shift bearish. So GBP I like it for next week. Okay, which pair? AUD USD. Let us see what we have. AUD USD, pretty much similar price action to one of those pairs that I say I'm not going to trade. So tell me why I'm not going to be trading AUD USD. But I actually believe that this market could actually sell, by the way, right? Because this is the highest point, and the last 2 days were dojis, right? So I believe that it will actually sell, but I'm not interested. The reason, you will tell me in the comment section, right? Tell me in the comment section. All right, GPBUSD. Let us see what we have. All right, GPBUSD daily time frame, clearly bullish, right? Clearly bullish. Let me look at this area of interest very well. I need to be sure that it's a clean one. All right, so the area of interest we are using is this one right here. We have very clean rejections, as you can see. If you want to start counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So I still need a deeper pullback for us to continue buying, right? That's what that time frame is telling me right now, which is the daily time frame, right? Now let us see how the weekly is looking. Weekly time frame is technically actually bullish, right? As you can see, this right here was the lowest point at that time, right? Because here was the highest point, we shifted bearish, this was now the lowest point, and we now broke above that level, which shows that this market is actually bullish on the weekly, right? I still need the forward to be bullish, which technically doesn't seem like it's going to be happening right now. We still need a deeper retracement. We still need a deeper retracement to area of interest, and we still need the forward. I actually still need the forward to shift bullish, right? Weekly bullish market is not too clean for me, so I need clean markets on the higher time frames, like the daily and the forward at least, right? So if you can have that shift right here before the retracement, then I'll be interested in actually buying. So I'm trying to see, should I add it for this week? I actually don't think it will happen this week though, right? I actually don't think the entire retracement and the slowdown and the shift will not happen this week. But we'll just keep it close to just kind of see what's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. All right, next pair, USD card. All right, USD card now, daily time frame. Okay, whoa. Okay. All right. So, daily time frame. Daily time frame is trying to, like, you know when you're about to FOMO into a trade, right? You know when you're about to FOMO into a trade. Anyway, so daily time frame, we have a very clean support level right here, and clearly we had sells very strongly to the downside, right? Okay, now daily time frame, if I now move over to the left, time frame USD card. If I now move over to the left, we had, I mean, not so clean rejections. If I extend this area of interest to this high right here, we might actually accommodate all these rejections right here, right? So this is what my thought process on USD card could be, but I am going to be very careful if I'm going to be choosing this market for this week. So last week, the last day was actually on Friday. He had a clear rejection from this area. That's one observation. But the EMA is still above, holding price at resistance, which this is telling me that this might actually be a trap, right? Is a kind of a trap. Let's see how the weekly looks. Weekly is also bullish. As you can tell from the weekly, you can clearly see that we had a break. If you are using the break and retest, right, we have a break. We had a retracement back into this level that we just called on the daily time frame, and that level was respected multiple times. So that is the previous structure point on the weekly time frame, right, which tells us that that area is actually a very strong area too, right? Now 4-hour time frame. Now 4-hour time frame is actually still bearish, right? What will make more sense is to leave this market for next week. I'm telling you right now, is to actually leave this market for next week. But my overall direction of this market is that this market could actually end up buying, right? Right, but I am not going to be falling for this market. I believe that the market could buy, but I'm not really going to be trading it. Right now, let's go over to AUD JPY, see what we have. All right, AUD JPY daily time frame, as you can clearly tell. AUD JPY can clearly tell highest high, right? He has a doji and engulfing, could potentially sell, but how do you know that? How do you know it could potentially sell, right? This right here is just a reversal candlestick pattern, because I think he has a name. I've forgotten the name, but I just know it's a candlestick pattern, a reversal candlestick pattern. That's why I just instinctively know that it's going to be selling, but I'm not going to be interested because there's no area of interest on the daily time frame, which is, you know, the backbone of this Set and Forget strategy, by the way, right? So not interested on AUD JPY. Euro JPY also not interested because I don't think it's going to be happening this week. The retracement back into this level to buy, not going to be happening this week. USD JPY. All right, USD JPY. Okay. So first of all, we had multiple rejections from this level. So I'll just draw this rejection to the left just to see. I'm not rushing into this market right now, right? Daily time frame is what? Well, technically still bullish, but it's actually breaking structure to the downside, right? So I'll just have that as an observation. Weekly time frame. All right, so weekly time frame is, well, now rejection from structural point, the last previous structural point on the weekly time frame. It's actually this one right here, but I'll just call this the structural point. And it seems like the sellers have pretty much tried to come to this area multiple times, by the way, and it has strongly rejected to the upside. That's what the information the weekly is telling me. So for you to just assume that this market might start selling, that's not really a good bias to have right now. Right, let's see how the forward looks. Wow, even the forward is telling us that this market could actually end up selling, right? Well, we have rejected this area multiple times. So if you're actually having this pair USD JPY for sales next week, please try to be very careful, because I can see that this market is rejecting to the upside multiple times, right? Multiple times. So assuming I'm going to be adding this pair for this week, this is what will make sense the most, right? You have clearly rejected this point twice already, very strongly, right? Very strongly. If I take this to the left, you can see that we also have like a wick into that area. Let me show you guys. As you can see, we try to sell below area of interest and we wicked up again, right? Same thing here, we wicked up, and same thing here. So don't just ignore it, because we need price to actually be trading under that level to confirm that this market is actually clearly bearish for us to actually sell. Should I add it for this week? No, I am not interested in this market for next week. Euro GPP, let's see what we have. All right, Euro GPP daily time frame. uh first of all, I don't like the market. It's just looking all over the place, right? There's too many things happening, and it's already hurting my brain. So I'm not even interested, right? I'm not even interested. Euro NZD. All right. So Euro NZD. Let us see. Okay, so I believe that this market is bullish on the daily time frame. Can we find an area of interest right here? I mean, this is an area. Okay, so we have at least 3 rejections from that area on the daily time frame. It's not so bad. Let's look at how it looks on the weekly. Okay, so weekly technically is still bearish, right? Let's not technically it's actually still bearish. This right here is still the lowest point, and the lower high for that is actually this one right here, right? And price has pretty much not broken above this high or broken below this low just yet. That's just wicked into those levels, and we use the body of the candlesticks, by the way, right? So still bearish actually. Daily time frame is actually still daily time frame is actually bullish, right? So we at least need the 4 hour to be bullish for us to even buy. Okay, so just give me a second. I'm thinking. I think this market is actually bullish on the 4 hour time frame, right? Let me come a little bit closer just to see what I'm seeing here. The 4 hour time frame was bearish, right? Was bearish, and this right here was the lowest point, right here, right? And we closed under that level at some point again, right? Which makes this now the new lowest point, and the higher low for that was this one right here at the time until we broke above, right? Making this market structure actually bullish right here, right? But I'm not buying into these markets just yet, right? Because it still do not look very clean. It just looks like a rejection from the 4 hour time frame, right? So for this thing to look clean, I think we need like a clear break again above that high. So we need like double break, right? The first break is not looking too clean to me. It might actually just be like a scam, right? If it's actually going to be buying, we need another break, right? So let me see how it looks on the daily again, just to confirm. Why this thing on this loose here? Not so clean on the daily, because daily the last day was even a doji, so it was very indecisive. So let's look at the 1 hour just to confirm. All right, that's very good now. That's very good, because 1 hour is actually bearish, right? So we need at least 1 hour time frame to shift structure bullish for us to even be interested. So this is a very it's one of those trades that is very confusing, but I actually believe that if we can have a clean break and retest above this area, we could actually buy all the way to this level right here, this particular level. So let me just mark it out on the daily time frame for a more precise. Let me just mark it out on the daily time frame for a more precise take profit target, right? So this one right here is what I'm talking about. So I'll add it for this week. I want to monitor and see how this trade actually plays out. So GBP daily time frame, not so clean. 4 hour time frame, okay. So GBP 4 hour time frame looks like it was very strongly bearish. at this point right here, and it's kind of shifting bearish right now. Right, let's look for an area of interest first. Seems like we are going to be using a resistance level. This right here is the cleanest level that I think this market has. There's an area right here just below here, but it's very tight and it's not even clean, right? I need clear rejections. As you can see right here, we had clear rejections from this area right here. This market could actually end up selling, right? This market could actually end up selling. So I'm thinking, should I add it for this week? Let's look at the 4 hour again. That's been a while I actually traded GBP I don't even know if I even like the PSF, whether the TME loss or the TME loss. Okay, but coming over to the 4 hour again, I just noticed something I don't like. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, but you see all these very long wicks to the top and very long wicks to the bottom, just like here, can cause a wick out, which I don't like. Like, I want the trade to be in the direction of the market and actually not wick me out in the process, right? Because I could be right, but I'll be not. My account will not really be positive just because it was a wick out. A wick out is still considered a loss. It doesn't matter how you want to twist it, right? You got wicked out, it's still a loss, right? So because of this week, very long weeks to the top and to the bottom, I don't think I'll add this market for this week, right? I don't think I'll add this market for this week. CAD JPY will be our last pair to see what we have, and I think we have better pairs to be paying attention to this market right here. So CAD JPY, I am not trading it for next week. I believe this market was bearish, but it shifted bullish this new week, right? I think this market could actually potentially continue buying if you can get more reasons to buy, right? But I don't think I'll really add it for this week. Well, should I add it for this week? I don't even know. I don't think I'll add it for this week. Daily is not too clean for me. The 4 hour is very clean, very clean actually. Let's see how the 1 hour looks. 1 hour is bearish, right? So I'll not actually be adding it for this week. For 1 hour shift bullish, you pretty much have to break above this high or break below this low and shift structure again. So I don't think I'll be interested in that market. I think we have good markets this week, about 5 pairs, right? So let me just do a quick recap and see if we have what we saw. All right, GPBNZD. Let me just change this to the 4 hour to look at this market well. Okay, so the first pair, NZD card, break and retest under this level to sell to potentially around this level. I'll actually take my profit before this level right here because this is like a demand zone, which I don't want price to start reversing before I take my profit, right? So 1:2 or this structural point right here will be good for us to take our profit, right? That is that for NZD card. GBP card. Wow. So GBP card, apparently I'm waiting for price to continue bearish for some time and have a slowdown before the shift, before we potentially buy. So I think only one of these two, NZD card or GBP card, might actually give us the opportunity next week, right? I don't think both of them are going to give us the opportunity simultaneously, right? GBP NZD next pair. So GBP NZD, I'm expecting for price to actually have a break and retest to potentially continue selling, right? That shows me that GBP, I need it to be very weak next week, right? Again, I showed you guys about this thing, so I don't know, GBP here, so I need GBP to actually be very weak. It's already weak right now, by the way, right? I need it to continue being weak, but it seems like it's gaining strength recently, which means it was actually weaker before, right? So we need it to be weak for us to actually sell in this market, but right now it's still gaining strength. Okay, so NZD USD. All right, apparently NZD USD, we are expecting NZD to be very strong, which means we need 4 hours to actually shift structure bullish first, right? And then we start jumping down to the 1 hour time frame and all that for us to actually buy this market. And then the last pair, Euro NZD. which, by the way, seems like I'm expecting the opposite of what I just saw here, right? Which is like a break and retest above this level to buy. So not all the trades are actually going to give us the opportunity. The trades that are going to give us the opportunity, we will trade those ones, right? And for gold, I expect gold to actually continue bullish because the market structure is clearly bullish. So I'll make a shorter version about this video again to try and explain what I just called. But just notice that most of the trades I'm seeing is like they are contradicting themselves. So not all of them are actually going to give us the opportunity. That's one information I already know for ahead of next week, right? So that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next week's setups. Remember, you can join the Telegram channel. You can also chat with your fellow Telegram, um, your fellow Set and Forget traders, right? In order to join the Telegram channel, just come over to the channel right here. Click on this link right here, and once it load up, you can see this one that says Telegram. If you click on the Telegram, you join the Telegram. You see me call these trades live before they even happen, and I'll also tell you when I'm in on this market, just like I did last week as well when I told you guys I was in. And then there's also a public group for you to chat with other traders, and we learn and grow together. Everything is free, by the way. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'll see you guys in the next week's setups.